You want to try plant medicine for the first time and you don't know where to start. You're like, should I be in a good mindset? How much should I take? What should I take? And first of all, I don't create many videos about this because 90% of people that I work with have been doing inner work for decades, from therapy to coaching to different healing modalities to multiple plant medicine ceremonies. So they understand these things and they're just looking for ways to integrate those in their daily lives. So that's kind of like a next stage. And this is what I specialize in integration of. Doesn't have to be plant medicine, can be any form of personal development, breakthrough, awakening, where you're like, okay, I've had this realization of the nature of reality. How do I make this last? How do I actually apply this into my life so that my life gets better and better and better? That's what I do. But I am trained in helping you prepare safely for plant medicines. And it would be unsafe for me to just give you guidelines without knowing your trauma, if there's any medications that you're taking and there are contraindication, how much work you've done on yourself. Because bear in mind that plant medicines are, as a teacher of mine used to say, a psychological sledgehammer. It's not the first tool I would use to get to know myself, to get to know life. I would start with meditation. In fact, I highly recommend that. I would start with coaching. I would start with therapy. I would start with getting out into the world and traveling and realizing that so many of my beliefs are just cultural structures that I don't actually believe in, and be on this process of unlearning of what is not yours. And as you unlearn, you get closer and closer to realizing who you truly are and what you really want. And also you get familiarized with your fears, with your insecurities, with traumas that you might be carrying. And all of that is preparation for plant medicine. All of that will prepare you more than Googling things, because we can see many people that are going to festivals or in different settings and they're having overwhelming psychedelic journeys because they had no idea of what they're signing up for. And when you haven't worked on yourself, on your mindset, on your mental health, on your emotions, on your relationship to yourself before psychedelics, it's very likely that you're going to get paranoid and overwhelmed, and you're going to be terrified that people are out to get you. You're going to be stuck in negative thought loops and spirals, and you're going to feel like this is never ending. I'm going to burn in hell. Like, this is hell. I'm going to get stuck in this. This is common because people have no idea what they're signing up for and they don't prepare themselves. And that's a big part of what I do, helping you get to know yourself so that when you get to a plant medicine experience, you know how to return to yourself if it gets overwhelming. I am a harm reductionist. What I do is helping you minimize risk and maximize benefit when using this medicine. And it would be hypocritical of me not to mention these things. Now, best I can do if we're not working together is to say, do your research, understand what you're signing up for, understand what might happen in that experience, from things moving to ego dissolution to everything melting and dissolving. And even though that is extremely hard to comprehend without experiencing it, it's important to understand that you're signing up for something extremely intense, and doing that without guidance can be extremely unsafe, especially if there's a history of extreme trauma, of mental health diagnoses that have been going around in your family. If you're taking pharmaceutical medications, there are contraindications and interactions, and it's important to know all those things, because maybe your friend had an amazing experience, but this may not be the case for you. Psychedelics amplify one's psyche, and they're very individual, very subjective experiences to each person, because we all have different traumas, different psyches, different beliefs, different dreams, aspirations, ancestry. There's so many variables that make us us, and that is why I feel like every single person will have a completely unique experience on plant medicine, because they have a very unique blueprint of who they are, what's really within them. And that's what psychedelics do. They show you what is truly within you. They help you get to know your own psyche. So how do you prepare for plant medicine journey? I have a free set and setting guide. I can link that down below. Understanding the importance of the environment that you're going to have the trip in. That really affects you. Is there going to be other people around? If there are people that you deeply trust, like a trained plant medicine facilitator, that is the best person to be holding space for you, because they have held in themselves the experience of being in an expanded state of consciousness, and whatever is going on with you, they can support you appropriately, as opposed to friends or family or a partner that may have never had an experience like this before, and they may freak out if you're going through an experience like that. And if someone around you freaks out, it's way more likely that you will freak out many times more, because whatever happens with psychedelics, it's an amplification. This is why your environment needs to be very well curated, so that it makes you feel safer. It makes you feel able to trust and surrender into the experience. If you feel like, oh, maybe I'll get Amazon deliveries today. If you're at a park and you feel like, oh, there's all these passersby. When you are in plant medicine, you can feel people's energy. Your mind can easily go into the wrong path and start telling you things like, oh, this person might know that I'm on something. Maybe they'll call the police. And this is where mental preparation comes into play. I personally work with people for 6 months at least before they have plant medicine experiences, because it's important to understand how your mind works, and the fact that you are not your thoughts, you are the observer, and you can navigate the experience differently. If you do that off psychedelics over and over and over and over again, it's way more likely that you will be able to hold space for yourself and stay grounded and centered on psychedelics. So your environment is very important. Number 2, your intention is very important. Many people are like, oh, I just want to see how the experience is. And if you don't have an intention, it's very likely that the experience will be all over the place and a bit random. That said, I generally believe that recreational experiences and you just having fun and looking at nature and connecting with your friends, those are epic things. But it's still important to have a safe environment and to feel like, okay, what are we here for? We're here to have fun. We're here to bond. We're here to reconnect with the natural world. We're here, we've been living in our heads for far too long. We want to reconnect with our bodies. We want to ground deeper into our bodies. Even that is an intention. So the more you have an intention, plant medicines work with you and co-create the experience with you. That said, too, often you may have suppressed a bunch of emotion, energy, trauma in your body, and they will not allow you to have fun if there is so much unintegrated, undigested fear, anxiety, grief. So very often they will amplify that, because that is what you need to do in order to heal, in order to meet your intention later, in order to have fun, in order to be creative, in order to reconnect deeper with your body. You need to meet that grief. You need to really feel it. Now, if you find yourself, oh gosh, I don't want to feel that. I said I wanted to feel, and now I'm like, no, just closing the door back. If you end up fighting and resisting and avoiding the experience, you're going to end up having what many people call a bad trip. I don't think there are bad trips. I think you need to understand that healing is 50% shadow work. It's you understanding that, hey, I need to feel the unfelt pain. I need to cry the uncried tears. It's okay to feel my feelings. My feelings cannot physically hurt me. And that takes training, right? So again, the more you do that off psychedelics, the better you will do it on psychedelics when you prepare for months before. And I've witnessed clients that have been doing therapy for decades, some of them that are therapists themselves, and they will have way more profound journeys. They can be very painful journeys, but they don't call them bad trips. They call them, oh my gosh, that was extremely healing. I purged so much emotion. I cried so much. I really released so much of my pain, because they understand how the healing process works much better than someone who has never done any inner work. One person that was coming to my psychedelic integration circles back in Portugal when I was living in Madeira, he had an amazing ayahuasca experience. It was his first experience, and the rest of the group asked him, what do you think led to you having this beautiful experience? And his response was 2 years in therapy. And that speaks, and it really highlights this point that the best preparation for psychedelics is self-awareness, is you working on yourself without this tool, this amplification, this magnifying glass. And when you add that, you are more adept in feeling the fear and not being terrified, by being able to relate to the fear differently, not from the fear, because that gets you really panicky if you believe that you are the fear and you're just this little thing and there's this massive shadow. As many people recommend, if you see a monster, welcome it in, invite it to have a talk with you. Don't be afraid of anything. So what leads to many challenging experiences on plant medicines and a lot of thought spirals is fighting the experience, wishing for it to end. Instead, you need to learn how to allow, how to breathe and allow. That's a good mantra to have. breathe and allow. Remember like the floor that you're sitting on. Touch things with your hands, and that can help you ground during an overwhelming experience. So having a safe environment, having an intention can be really good. I can share with you an intention template as well. Now, if we were working together, a lot of our work for, again, months at a time would be to get deeper on the intention, because a lot of the things can be healed in a coaching session, and only go to the medicine for the level that you cannot go without the medicine. The medicine, once again, is an amplification of that intention you've already worked on before the journey. And there is a wiser way to form intentions. For example, you don't want to be saying, I want to fix myself. I want to be saying, I'm willing to heal. You want to phrase it on the positive, on where you actually want to go, because removing the problem, like fixing yourself, is not really going to bring you what you want in life. Looking for what you actually want in life will help you. And I have a whole other video on intention, because that is a deep topic that I often speak extensively on for at least an hour. Safe environment, having an intention, having worked on yourself prior, and also trusting the medicine. If you can test for purity of what you're going to consume, amazing. If you trust the source where it's coming from, amazing. Know your dosages. You can always take more, but if you take too much, you can't undo that. You have to really trust that you can hold yourself, and you need to remember that this will end. Nothing lasts forever. The only constant in life is change. So do remind yourself. You can even write on a paper with massive letters, this will end by 10 p.m., for example. So it's important to know how long what you're taking is consuming. Again, if we were working together, I would tell you more about how each medicine works, which one might be recommended for you for your chosen intention, because not every medicine is best for everyone at every point in their lives. If you should be doing plant medicines at all, given your health screening and your mental health screening. And either way, I wouldn't be able to recommend any sources and things like that. I have partnerships in Costa Rica in places where plant medicines are legal, but I can't recommend anything that is illegal. Of course, again, I'm a harm reductionist. I help people minimize risk and maximize the healing that is possible when using plant medicines, and that requires way more than the journey itself. I cannot highlight that enough. That requires way more than the journey itself. The most healing, profound journeys are the ones you have prepared for. And if you really want that journey to change your life, you need to spend at least 6 months integrating it with someone else. Just doing it by yourself is not going to work. I've been trying that for like 7+ years. It has never worked. As soon as I started working with coaches and therapists and having frameworks around integration, my life started exponentially growing. We are not designed to heal in isolation. So remember that the journey is just a small part of a healing process that does require more steps. It does require emotional holding. It does require contemplative practice. It does require having a direction you're going to in life. In a nutshell, 3 things that I think are very important in helping you have a beautiful journey. And by beautiful, I don't necessarily mean positive. It can be painful, but it can be very healing as well. And healing is beautiful so often in my life, especially after nearly a decade of doing the work. What I keep reminding myself is I don't just want to feel good. I want to heal. And that's okay. If there's pain, let there be pain. So 3 things that are really important: trusting the environment and the people that are going to be present, if they will. I do find it that if there's someone that you trust, it's going to be easier to go deeper than if you're just by yourself. I find that there's always at least one part in us that is hyper vigilant and alert, that what if something happens? What if someone knocks on the door? What if someone passes by? And that part doesn't allow us to fully surrender into the experience. Well, when you have someone that you really, really trust to make sure that you are safe, it's easier to really relax and surrender into the experience. Number 2, trusting the medicine, the source, the purity, and remembering that the medicine is an ally. It's a friend. It wants you to heal. It doesn't want to torture you. If it's showing you pain, it's because you need to feel that and really be aware of that in order to heal it, not on the journey, after the journey. As a student of mine once said, they say that psychedelics are like 10 years of therapy in 5 hours. hours, what I just realized is that these 5 hours showed me what I need to do for the next 10 years in therapy. And that is a really mature and very realistic way of looking at it. And number 3, trusting yourself to hold that experience. And that comes, of course, the more inner work you've done prior to that, the more meditation, contemplative work, the more you have sat with yourself before that, the deeper it's going to go. Now, you might say, of course, Alex, no, I haven't done 10 years of therapy. What can I do? Do prepare with someone, honestly, for 3 to 6 months, just to get an idea of your psyche, an idea of your fears, your insecurities, the problems that are holding you back, but also your desires. Where do you want to go in life? What is the intention here? Because we go where we set out to go. Fuzzy targets don't get hit, as Tony Robbins says. And another really good tip is to start with microdosing. You don't have to give yourself a heroic dose if you've never sat with these medicines before and you've never sat with yourself before. So you can start familiarizing yourself with the medicines by taking a very safe sub-perceptual dosage and start realizing kind of how it works in your body, and incrementally add more, like over the course of weeks, so that you can see, okay, how does this work in a tiny dosage, and how does it work in a mini dose, and how does it work in like a museum or concert dose, as we would say. The next place I would go after this video is the intention video. So if this is ready by the time you're watching this, it's going to be somewhere on the screen.